I designed a kit card of Jason Voorhees. All you 80s and 90s kids will absolutely know exactly what this is and why it's awesome. So I really wanted to put out a video here to get some feedback because I would like to design a whole bunch more horror figures from the 80s and 90s as kit cards, but I really wanted some feedback on the process because this is so stupid and convoluted to create. Now, if you're just here to download it and print it, the link is down below. And if you wanted to get access to stuff before I publish it, you got to join the Patreon. The link for that is down below. And thank you to all of you who are already part of the Patreon. But let's just jump straight into this thing. I've had this idea brewing for a long time now of doing little kit cards of horror monsters and maybe even some set pieces and stuff like that so that you can make your own little diorama at home. And I designed this up, and I'm really pleased with how it came out. You can see here, I didn't really have a good skin tone to match Jason Voorhees, so he's super pink and he's super melanated there. But this printed fine on all of my bamboo printers and all of my Prusa printers. It snaps together as this little semi-posable figure. You can turn his head, you can move his arms, you can twist his waist. And I really spent a lot of time debating like what degree of posability I was going to build into it. And I've kind of defaulted to not very posable for now to keep things simple and tiny. Maybe down the road, if this picks up and people enjoy it a lot, I'll do some more detailed, bigger, advanced ones that have like fully articulated joints. But for now, simple I think is best so I can do more. So let me jump into the modeling process here. And I would love to hear from those of you who do a lot of 3D modeling, CAD work, especially people who have designed kit cards in the past. Um, kit cards with like organic shapes specifically. That's where it gets complicated. I'll take you through the process, and you're going to agree this is stupid and convoluted. I started out modeling our little character here in Nomad Sculpt on the iPad. I know you could sculpt it in Blender, etc., but I like Nomad because I can sculpt while I'm watching TV with my wife. I can kind of tinker around. Once it was sculpted in Nomad, then I bring it into Blender for the cutting. Blender has some pretty decent tools to be able to cut things up and have flat surfaces. And those flat surfaces are extremely important when it comes to printing, right? So I brought it into Blender, I chopped it up, I added the joints, chopped it up some more, and now I have all of these parts. But what I couldn't find is a way in Blender to lay parts flat on a surface like this. So it's easy with this because this is, it's got this huge flat surface, but for something like the legs that had multiple polygons that were flat, I couldn't find any way in Blender to orient it perfectly to a flat surface after I cut up the model. So what I did is I started in Nomad, then I went to Blender to cut it up, then I went into Prusa Slicer and laid it all flat on the bed. And what I found is, even with the cut, some of the things like the legs specifically did not have a perfectly flat surface. And I had to even slice it in Prusa Slicer to take off a fraction of a little tiny bit to make it lie flat. Then I arranged it like this inside Prusa Slicer after all of the modeling was done and exported that as an STL. And I brought that into Fusion 360. Now I realized I could have done this in Blender, but in Fusion 360, I can dimension things. So this is 2 millimeters and this is 1 millimeter. This is 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, this little thin sprue. So you can just crack it off, but it's still strong enough to hold the parts. They're not gonna just fall off. When I did it visually in Blender, some of those were too small and they just fell off if you wiggled it too fast, as evidenced here. But in CAD, I can be a little bit more specific about those parts. So I'm curious for those of you who model stuff and model, kit cards specifically, how do you get everything to lay perfectly flat? Are you jumping back and forth to CAD? I know some of you are working in CAD completely because your models are very blocky and look like they were designed in CAD. They're great looking models, but they're just very obviously designed in CAD and not like digitally sculpted. So how would I go about reducing the stupidity of that process of going Nomad, Blender, Prusa slicer fusion to end up here. And again, the major pain point, I think, is just getting everything to lay perfectly flat like it would on the print bed in Blender. If somebody can explain that to me, that would be wonderful. Anyway, enjoy the JSON. I hope you print it. I hope you enjoy it. I would love to hear feedback. And I need some encouragement. If you want me to make more, if you want to see Freddy, if you want to see Pumpkinhead, let me know. I'm eager to do some more, but I'm also very ego driven. I need that feedback. And I'll see you on the next video.